When we think about social return on investment, or SROI, we are looking at the way that a program makes impacts systemically in a community. So I often think of a pebble being thrown into a pond, and that's the program's activities. And then once that is thrown into the pond, there comes these rings of ripples. So what SROI does is it watches very carefully to see where the initial impact is, and then it begins to measure and quantify those ripple effects.
When businesses and also nonprofits are reporting their financials, they're reporting to their investors. It's critically important for them to be able to explain the holistic financial value of what those products and services are doing. And so SROI gives them the ability to report those metrics in the same financial terms as you're reporting return on investment, or ROI.
So to take a very specific example of the Habitat for Humanity construction company, that activity is helping people to fix up their houses. So that is the pebble that gets thrown into the pond. And then the first ring is, the immediate effects to the property value, the immediate effects to the surrounding neighborhood, or the tax base of the neighborhood. It's creating local jobs. But the next impact is the impact on the families of the people that live in those homes. They can now bring and invite people over to their homes because they feel a sense of pride in their homes.
I think the beginning of this SROI partnership is a tribute to the brilliance both of the late John Glazer and of Ken Ehlers at Habitat for Humanity, because they both got it about how this could make a big difference in a lot of places. There's so much hunger to be able to express impact beyond just profit. What is the impact on people? What is the impact on the earth?
The biggest challenge that we had, we knew what the impact was. We just didn't know how to tell the story. And we knew that having a decent place to live increased educational attainment, but we didn't know how to tell that story. SROI helped that, by teaming with the Voinovich School through the funding from the Sugarbush Foundation. We were able to take the time to research, and SROI allows us to be able to reference that and tell that story.
When I came along in 2019 and 2020 and was trained by Social Value International, Sugarbush then really catalyzed the exponential growth of SROI at Ohio University. The first step is understanding the intended audience, scope, and purpose of the SROI. So this is when we meet with the executive director, the president, the leadership, key staff, and we ask them, why do you want this SROI? What are the measures that you haven't been able to value that are important to you? The second step is we want to meet with the key stakeholders. So we ask the leadership, who do you have an impact on? And we want to talk to everybody. We want to talk to the primary beneficiaries or the customers. We want to talk to board members. We want to talk to staff. And we want to talk to community members who support you. When we are talking to these folks, we're looking for the change that the enterprise makes in their lives. We use the process of ripple effects mapping with the broad-based stakeholder group. So for PassionWorks, the primary people that are changed are the artists themselves. And it was critical for us to hear the artist's perspective in the artist's words from the artist's point of view. So In true PassionWorks form, we asked each artist to draw, illustrate the most important change that PassionWorks had made in their lives. And the results are amazing. Some of the artists drew stories. One artist, for example, she drew this picture of herself in a dark room, this representing before PassionWorks. And then she drew herself at a table with her other PassionWorks artists and the little dog that comes. And then the final stage is like her, emerging as this beautiful, whole, like on fire being. Then the third step, we move on to developing the indicators. So now we understand what changes, but now we have to understand how much and for how many people experience the change. So this is where we delve into the organization's data. Then we move on to the fourth step, and that is valuing what changes. This is the fiscal proxy development. So now we understand the change, we know how much change is happening, now we can do the research to put a dollar amount on it. Then we go into the research and we try to figure out, has anybody else studied this change and understood what it costs to make a change of this nature? For every single proxy that we calculate for the clients, we go through a rigorous methodological process to develop those valuations. PassionWorks was unique because of the incredible increases in quality of life that it gives its stakeholders. We had these sets of outcomes that were all about interconnectedness, belongingness, emotional growth, growth and maturity that are not tangible, that we needed to figure out a way to measure these quality of life outcomes. To put a monetary value on the increase in quality of life, we used a combination of statistics and then also monetary valuation from the healthcare field in terms of a quality adjusted life year. The final SROI metric, for every dollar invested, X amount of social value is created, is a fluid metric. It changes each year, maybe each quarter. It changes as the activities of the organization change, and as the focus of the organization changes, maybe they allocate more resources in a certain area and not in others. That will change the overall ratio. Then finally, the last step is to share the results. And this is very cyclical in nature because we go back and we share the results with the leadership team, with the stakeholders. We have been able to move from an Excel-based calculator to a cloud-based software calculator that now social enterprises can embed on their web page to illustrate their impact and to calculate prospective impact. So one example is for the True Pigments project, and the output is measured in miles of stream restored, now supporting life. And then we understand the changes as a result of True Pigments. Now the stream is totally restored, it supports life, it's clean. And the way we monetize that is by understanding, if it weren't for True Pigments, how much would it cost to restore each of those miles? And so we're able to put a dollar amount on actually each linear foot of the stream restored by True Pigments activities.
For the True Pigments project, one of the ripple effects that we have been able to measure and have been so excited about seeing come to life is the art that comes out of this paint pigment that's extracted from the acid mine drainage in the streams. So now this pigment can be turned into paints, and those paints are being sold, and artists are making beautiful art out of what was once pollution that was clogging up streams. And I mean, what a better way to visualize the ripple effects of SROI through art that's made from pollution.
Being able to really put some numbers on the value of sustainable iron oxide pigment, and to be able to think about some of the social impacts that possibly elevated property values downstream, and the ecotourism piece, thinking about all of those and being able to weave those into the narrative that we are sharing about True Pigments has been, I think, really important to telling the story in a more comprehensive way.
It's also been important from a strategic planning perspective. We've been able to look at that and go, okay, now it's not just about family served, but it's also about impact generated. And we utilize SROI for our strategic decisions here at Habitat now because of the impact it can have on weighing impact.
The more value that you can legitimately explain and apply to whatever it is, the more the so-called value proposition can be explained. And so it's critically important to be able to tell that story of the whole value proposition and the impact that that's having on society. For the Sugarbush Foundation, the biggest impact of SROI itself is the ability that it gives us to help change the narrative about Appalachian Ohio, and to give us quantitative, research-backed data to tell the value of all the assets that are present across this region. That is giving us a future that we can tell to the rest of the world with an innovative technology and process that's actually originating out of Appalachian Ohio.